Yeah, I think as citizens, we're part of the solution, right? Also part of the problem. And I think giving people some actionable steps is really helpful. And so when I talk to a lot of people in the US, I suggest that we ask ourselves a series of questions that help illuminate some red flags, some signs that you might be dealing with information that might not be true. And so they're questions like, who is the author? Do I know who tweeted this message? Are they a well-known news source? Questions like, do I automatically want to agree with this message because it supports my viewpoint, right? That might mean that we're a little more susceptible to sharing information that supports our viewpoint, even if it hasn't done the hard work to maybe earn our sharing of the information. So I think it's one part asking ourselves some critical questions about our own biases, and I think the other part is being a little bit more aware of the media that we encounter. Where are we? Who's the source? Why am I seeing this? That can help citizens be a little bit more in control of the information they share and encounter. Social media plays a big role in this, particularly for young people. Some people have different coping strategies with social media. So I do think people who are avid news consumers have kind of curated their social media. They've invited news in, they follow journalists or news organizations. And those people, I think, have a space that they heavily monitor and can rely on for news. But news can sometimes also find its way into people that don't regularly consume news. And where this kind of gets a little problematic for fake news and disinformation is when you get things that are technically ads, right? Advertisements, but they look like a news story. And those are really problematic for people who aren't regular news consumers. And they're more likely to encounter that on social media and more likely to not have the tools to recognize that it's an ad, not a news story.
So we have a generation gap.
Yes, absolutely, especially with social media. But as I talked about, like, this is also an issue for older people. And I think with algorithms, particularly an issue with older adults. I think a lot of important strides have been made. I think we learned a lot about what happened during the 2016 election and have made important strides in making people a little more aware of how disinformation found its way into people's timelines or social media accounts that were key contributors to how that information got in front of people. But I think you can never be absolutely sure, right? It's a moving target. There's always new accounts, new websites, new strategies. And so I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, I think it's always going to be a struggle, and it's always something that we need to worry about. The fight for media literacy will never be over. Because there will always be new tactics being deployed. So I think while we learned a lot from the 2016 election, we need to continue to learn and continue to educate as new forms pop up, especially as we're nearing another presidential election. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really important question for journalists and educators. I was doing a research project with high school teachers in Chicago, and one of the things that they often talked about, and these were teachers of media literacy programs, was just how much effort it takes to become knowledgeable about new forms of disinformation and misinformation. The technology, deep fakes, AI, right? Getting that information into the classroom for teachers to then be able to translate it to students is really difficult. And I would say the same thing is true for journalists. There are some amazing online programs that are built to try to assist journalists, to allow them with some of the verification tools that will make it a little easier to detect when you're dealing with something that is false, especially as it's circulating on social media or on YouTube. But I do think everybody needs training. As much as we talk about the importance of citizens needing tools and training, so do journalists and so do educators and so do community leaders.